So, this happened. Last week, a bunch of you guys were telling me congratulations for reaching 200k, but I was too deep into editing that video to add it into that one, so I'll put it right at the beginning of this one. Thank all of you for helping me reach 200k. I don't know what I'm going to do now that I reached 200k. If you have any ideas or suggestions, leave it in the comments. But I wanted to make sure you all knew I saw this number, and it means a lot to me. And once again, thank you. So I guess we go up 50k. I guess we're now reaching for 250k. And if you want to help, consider subscribing. Perilous Warp released on Steam back in October of 2020. It's been in my games library for quite a while now, yet I never really got around to playing it. And I wish I did sooner, because it is genuinely enjoyable. Hey everyone! As always, Jarek here. Perilous Warp is a good reminder that this channel's intent is not just to review bad games. In fact, I'm rarely ever looking to review a bad game. Yeah, if I'm gonna cover aliens, colonial marines, or body count, that's the whole point of the video. I know how bad the game is, and I just want to express my feelings about it. But most of the time, I'm finding a game that I've never heard before or never played before, and it went under the radar. Games that go under the radar usually go under the radar because they're really bad. So that's kind of what my channel ended up turning into. But it's not always bad. I do find a few hidden gems. I don't want to say that Perilous Warp is a hidden gem, but it's not bad, that's for sure. While we're on this topic, I will briefly say that I think my best videos are of games that I absolutely just love and adore and want to talk about. Halo 3, Boneworks, Fear Extraction Point. Those videos are generally my best, but the videos about bad games generally get more views. So I guess it works out. Please go watch my videos of good games though, I promise you they're really good.
Jesus!
So aren't you glad you're playing this game?
No! You're an asshole!
Alright, Perilous Warp. Let's talk about the story. There's not a whole lot to this story. In fact, the game advertises itself as a story that you can just kind of forget about and play, or learn more if you really care. The game opens with humans finding a new planet that is similar to Earth's composition. Unfortunately, it's too far away, and humans don't have technology yet to get there. Well, 2 years later, a meteor smashes into Earth, with technology that now can get them far out. The catch is, the materials needed to make such technology are incredibly rare on Earth. But remember that new planet? Yep, that has all the materials that humans would need to continue with this technology. So they send a colony up there, they start extracting these materials, and then they lose contact. The only emergency solution to this is one small teleport that can only teleport one person through. Basically, it's this game's excuse to have you and you alone go take out these aliens. Of course, at the time you don't really know they're aliens, but I mean, they're aliens. While you're playing the game, there's quite a few different PDAs that you can read to get some more backstory to what happened to the people on this planet, but ain't nobody got time for that. I'm gonna be honest, I'm just here to shoot aliens, and I couldn't really be bothered to read these. I don't know how interesting they would be, but I feel like most will probably do the same. And so we quickly move over to the graphics, and to be honest, there's not a whole lot to look at. This is a corridor shooter, so most of the time you're going to be going down gray corridors. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I mean, I'm quite used to playing games like this. One of my favorite games is Half-Life 1, and most of that game is just corridors. With that said, the texture works, the effects, the animations of enemies, all of this for a small indie game are pretty good. They're obviously never going to be AAA, but this looks a lot better than most other indie games do. It also managed to avoid just being Quake Indie Edition. It's obviously you can see the inspirations of Quake, but it doesn't look directly like Quake. That said, there is a retro mode. I barely noticed anything when I just turned it on, but you can downsample up to 8 times, and then there's a big difference, and it does look, I mean, kind of retro. As far as a PC release goes though, I really don't have any complaints. It has all the graphical options you would expect, yes, including an FOV slider. I never had any crashes, and it just worked as intended. So I can only applaud the release, it did what it was supposed to. However, so far nothing has stood out as being great or way above average, it's all just kinda good. That is, except for the soundtrack, which is actually kind of awesome. The soundtrack quite nearly on its own holds up the atmosphere of this game. The music ranges from being mysterious, to awesome combat music. And yes, I've been playing this music for the whole video. I think it fits perfectly. I might use it for videos moving forward. And now we move on to the gameplay. which is more interesting than I thought it would be just by how it feels. The best way I can describe the combat and movement of this game is that it's somewhere in between the original Quake and Doom 3. I probably just explained like 90% of shooters, but I think you know what I mean. You're not going to be doing any of the crazy bunny hopping you saw in Quake, but it's nowhere near as slow as Doom 3. I'd say it's somewhere in between Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2. Anyway, aside from that little tidbit, there's not a whole lot more to really say about the combat. You get the small, annoying enemies to shoot, which in this case are scorpions. Scorpions? Stop existing. What perfect time for someone to subscribe. You get the enemies that lunge at you that a double barrel will deal with perfectly fine. You get the enemies that shoot at you. You get the enemies that shoot at you, but more. You have angry fish, and you have boss. And that's pretty much it, but this game also isn't very long, so I feel like that's fine. I mean, the enemies that shoot at you all carry different weapons, so that feels like different enemy types on their own anyway. You get your own arsenal of weapons. You start with a wimpy little knife, not a big deal. Then you get an assault rifle, which works exactly as intended. Then you get a double barrel shotgun, which will be your utility weapon for this game. You'll use it most of the time. This eventually gets an upgrade that lets you shoot both barrels at a time, so you get a double barrel pump action, which is pretty awesome. You get a machine gun, which is this game's equivalent of a chain gun, but it kind of sucks while kind of not sucking at the same time. Like, it has a good amount of damage output, and you can upgrade it to have even more damage output. However, it takes so long to spin up, and once you stop shooting, it has to fully spin down before it can start spinning up again, and this just takes too long. After this, you get a saw blade? Oh no, it just opened that and gave me a saw blade? A saw blade. Do I throw it or? Okay. Yeah, it's just a saw blade. You just throw it at enemies. It doesn't really have an animation or anything. I don't even know if you're really throwing it. For all I know, you could be spitting it at them. It does okay damage when you get headshots, and once you upgrade it, you can hold on to enemies. I just find it really weird that it's just a raw saw blade. Like, why not have like a saw blade shooting gun or something? Why just a saw blade? Then you get a grenade launcher, which isn't the best at first because it just lobs grenades out that take forever to blow up, but you eventually get to upgrade it into a rocket launcher and then never use the grenade launcher part of it ever again. And the last weapon is a railgun, which, yep, it does what you think it would do. They railguns. Now, these guns aren't revolutionary by any means. I don't think anything in this game really is, but they are fun to use. They sound nice. They have decent animations. They do the job that they're supposed to do. And you don't have any skill trees or anything stupid you need to do to upgrade them. You just find random upgrade boxes as you go along. You press E and then your gun is upgraded. There you go. I'm perfectly fine with this. I kind of hate how every game needs to have a bunch of RPG mechanics just to upgrade a gun. Just keep it simple. It's a shooter. The map designs themselves are pretty decent. They're not overly convoluted, but they're also not too linear. They usually will loop in on themselves after you do an objective and then go to whatever the next thing is you need to do. Now, this game does have keycards, but it's not like the original Doom where you're going to get lost forever. I did get lost in a few of these, but usually they do a very good job telling you that you need to go from this point to this point. Like I said, the maps will loop in on themselves, and usually when they do loop in on themselves, the door that you need to go through is right in front of you. In fact, I would say the map design is better than most hallway shooters because most hallway shooters are literally just hallways with nothing more interesting than that. There are also secrets on this map. They may just be ammo, or they may be a gun that you find earlier than you're supposed to, because this is a 90s retro shooter and you can't have a 90s retro shooter without there being secrets. Anyway, yeah, I don't have much more to say. If you played a 90s retro shooter before, then you kind of know what to expect coming into this. The gameplay seems to fluctuate from being mostly like Quake to sometimes feeling like Serious Sam, where you get locked into an arena and then have to kill all the enemies before you can move on. But the arena is kind of this flat open area, so again, it feels more like Serious Sam in that case than Quake, but at the same time, it's a little slower than both of those games, yet it doesn't feel too slow like Doom 3. They somehow managed to make a game that's obviously inspired by Quake and 90s shooters, but yet not truly feel like any of them, which is a good thing. This game does have its own interesting appeal to it, and I don't know why, but it feels like one of those comfort games that I would play when I'm bored and I have nothing better to do, and I just kind of want to mindlessly shoot. A lot of my chat, and apparently the Dusk dev, was telling me that it reminded them a lot of Chasm the Rift. Now, I never played Chasm, so I can't really speak on that. But when looking up footage for it, I would have to agree. I mean, hell, that's the same shotgun. Like, I mean, seriously, that's just one-to-one the same shotgun. So perhaps if you have nostalgia for Chasm the Rift, then you'll really enjoy this game. But if you don't, you might like it. I mean, you probably will think it's just kind of fine. You know, and that's okay. Not every game needs to be the best game of all time, and that's not what this game is. It's just good. This video should be a bit shorter than my other videos. I mean, the game is only about 2 hours long, even with me getting lost a few times and talking to my chat. So this video is going to be a bit shorter as well. Thanks to everyone that joined me over on Twitch. That's where all this footage is from. My Twitch is twitch.tv/JarekTheGamingDragon. If you subscribe, you get to see my videos ahead of time. And always, a big thanks to you for watching this video.